Hi everyone, and welcome back to the New York School of Design's Intro to Digital Design. This is Lesson 3. My name is Vidal Seiferle Valencia, and I'm a fashion designer here in New York City. In this video, I will be discussing further about the pen tool, as well as introducing some new concepts with the pen tool and some of the other tools we've utilized so far. So we're going to jump right in with the pen tool. And as I said, the pen tool is about to be your best friend. And I'm not joking, because we will pretty much do everything with the pen tool in terms of when we get to the technical sketch itself. So, of course, with the pen tool, as I've explained before, is effectively taking points and creating anchor points and joining them with paths. So you can create shapes, you can create single lines, you can create straight lines, you can do all types of things. So firstly is, of course, you can create straight lines. And as I said in our previous lesson, you can eyeball this. However, there is an easier way, and that is to just hold Shift. So if you hold Shift, you'll see that it's snapping to all of these angles at a 45-degree axis. And so if I'm holding Shift and I click this way, it is now making perfect right angles. And of course, I have to kind of eyeball the measurement here, but it is effectively a way to where I could create perfect angles at a 45-degree axis utilizing the pen tool without touching the shape or the line tools. Additionally, and more commonly, the pen tool is used in some capacity to create curves. And so when we create curves with the pen tool, if you do the same as you would, you click one point and then you click a separate area on your workspace and then you drag, you'll see you get these two little tails. And with these tails, that is how the curve is created. Now, these tails can be manipulated utilizing our direct selection tool. So our white arrow, if I click on the point, you'll see it has both arrows, or both tails, which is creating this angle. And I could effectively twist these around to make it work in the way that I need it to. Additionally, as I said before, you can use the pen tool to create things on perfect angles. So this is creating this little point at a 90-degree angle. But then interestingly, if I want to actually convert this into a curve, I have a couple of ways that I can do this. So if I take my direct selection tool and I actually just select this point, you'll see that there's this little circle that shows up here. If I hold this and drag it upwards, I will now create a curve. Now, this will add points in some cases. As you can see, it has now added a point here and here in order to accommodate that curve making sense. However, if I drag it all of the way, you'll see these points are moving closer and closer to the original origin. And once I drag that all the way up, it is now, again, just 2 points, but curved. The second way to go about doing this is to actually hover over our pen tool and click this little arrow here, which is called the anchor point tool. And if I do this, and I take my anchor point tool, you'll see if I hover over this gently, it will have the little tails to make it a curve, right? If I click that point, I can then drag out and create this as a curve. Again, I can hold Shift when I'm utilizing curve adjustments, and that's going to make it perfectly scaled again. So it's going to scale it proportionately to itself. And so if I'm using this anchor point tool, I can use this to turn this into a curve. And additionally, I can also use that to take curves away. So if I have this like this, I have my 2 points with curves. If I were to take my anchor point tool here and just click it, and then just click this one, it's going to take the curves away. So with that tool, we can create curves or take them away from a point. Now, I had mentioned in our previous lesson when we made a pocket, I utilized the Add Anchor Point tool. So there's the Add Anchor Point tool, which you may be a little bit familiar with now, but there's also the Subtract Anchor Point tool. And so for a crude sort of example, if I were to just select this t-shirt here, and I were to select just the body, you'll see there's 2 little points down here. If I hard press my pen tool and I go to Delete Anchor Point tool, I can just click those anchor points and they will go away. So if I didn't want there to be a shirt tail to this shirt, I could just delete the anchor points that were creating a curve, and then I could redraw the hem here. So I could delete as many of these points as I want. I could delete any points as long as I'm clicking a point itself. But you should just remember that when you delete the point, Illustrator is going to fill in the space. So if you have 3 points and one is down here in the middle, of course, and I go and delete it, it is now going to move the path to be in between the 2 remaining points. So this will remove any curve you have. It will kind of make the shape a little bit clunkier, so you want to be careful when you're deleting them. Additionally, as I mentioned in our previous lesson, there is the Add Anchor Point tool. And so I have this shape here, and I can use, again, our alignment tools to line these up perfectly. I want to make this look a little bit kind of like a fried egg. So I'm just going to add a few points here along where I want to. This isn't a super symmetrical image, so I'm not too worried about where I'm adding the points. And I could then take my direct selection tool and I can just use some of these points and use my direct selection tool to change some of the angles. I can use it to make it look a little more amorphous. I can use it to make it closer to the yolk here, or I can use it to make it further away. And again, I can keep adjusting with these tails, sort of what I want it to look like. And eventually I'll get something that looks kind of like the fried egg I want.